Hello, my friends. Just wanted to start out today by saying, are you happy AF? If you are, you're going to find, if you don't know what that is, you're going to find out what it's all about today on today's episode of Talk About Your Community. Kalisa, let's roll the opening credits. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever in the world you may happen to be. You've tuned in to Talk About Your Community. I am Todd Nilson, your host with Clocktower Advisors. And on this show, we bring in all kinds of people from different disciplines and areas of expertise to talk about community building and how the work that they do has an impact on the world of community professionals that we all live in. I hope that you are having a wonderful week and that you're looking forward to a nice, relaxing weekend. I know I am. The weather in Wisconsin has been warming up a little bit, and so I've been able to get out to some nice walks on the beach and out to some of the local forest trails. We've got an Ice Age trail very close by that is absolutely beautiful right now. And so I hope you're able to do something similar to recharge your batteries and have a wonderful weekend. But in the meantime, I am very happy and honored to have a longtime friend and guest on the show who I can't remember if he's been on early days. I think he was. He's nodding his head yes in the green room here. I'm going to bring him on stage here, Mr. Phil Gerbyshak. Phil, man, I don't even know how to begin introducing you. We've known each other for such a long time. Welcome to the stream. I'm really glad you're here. Could you maybe, I know your LinkedIn profile says that you're a sales enablement and leadership expert. I know you run a stream. You've got a very successful Substack. You've been a past president of Central Florida's NSA, which is not the security organization. It's the National Speakers Association, right? And tell the world a little bit about yourself, because I know that community professionals probably haven't run into you in some of the stuff you're doing. I'd love to make a nice introduction so they can learn a little bit more about you.
Oh, well, thanks, Todd. So yeah, originally, we were hanging out in Milwaukee. We were talking about community there, about digital community a lot with that. And then after building a very large community in Milwaukee, I left. I moved to Florida. I moved to Tampa and built a good community there. As you said, I was president of the Central Florida National Speakers Association. That's the NSA that talks. So I did that for a number of years, and I do speaking and training and coaching and live streaming and all this stuff. Right now, the topic is happiness, and the outcome really is more productivity. It's better engagement. It's better leadership, because I really believe that happy employees work harder. And it's not just that I believe that, but the studies show this is true. From Gallup to Deloitte, you name it, all the big players have said happy people work harder. Well, how do we do that in the community? Hopefully we're going to talk about some of that today, right?
Absolutely. I'm really looking forward to digging into that. And as I think about our past history, I think a lot of where you and I first interacted back in Milwaukee, as you said, was around building a movement, a live community. It was back around the time of the last economic downturn, 2008 timeframe. Mm-hmm. And there were a group of us that just said, boy, you know what? There's so many people were out on the job market. They were laid off. They were in a bad situation. And we said, there's got to be something better than a job fair out there. There's, these are awful experiences. We need to do something that's going to, help people feel more positive about themselves, help them feel happier about where they are. And I think for me, this set me on the path to my career direction ever since, which has been to really focus in on community building. But what we did back then was we created a different kind of event, and that was, I think, largely, like I want to say like 98% of it was built in using online tools and
That's
some of the newer social media platforms at that time. Helping people get onto LinkedIn, helping them do their profiles. We did a lot of promotion on Twitter and Facebook and like everywhere, at that time. And that led to a movement. I think, and a lot of it had to do with that messaging and giving that voice of inspiration, to others that this is an opportunity to reinvent yourself and to kind of go from there. And so I got to say, like, you and there was a core group of us that did this thing, and I'm so proud of that. And I credit the work that I'm doing today in community building with those early lessons of what we did together at that time.
Totally. Yeah. I really agree with you, Todd. I would say the same thing. We built Job Camp kind of out of nothing to fill a need, which is how community often starts, right? We have something in common, but we have little C community, right? We don't have big C community. Little C community mean, okay, there's some people, they have something in common. That's real nice. But as you elevate that and you go up to the big C community, now we're looking at building something that's even bigger than us. That's
Yeah.
the key. And I think Job Camp really did a great job of that. My gosh, yeah, that's 16, 17. Holy cow. Yeah, that's a long time ago, Todd.
That
But
dates us a bit. Yeah.
it does, right? It does. And to your point, right? So we use Foursquare to leave tips
Oh
about
yeah, that's
things,
right. Yes.
right? We'd leave, we'd leave tweets so that people could find them. Heck, we'd even take Sharpies and we write them on our handles on the wall or on the booths. Thank you very much, Joe Sorge at AJ Bombers, right? And the folks there
Yes.
that helped us do that because it connected us in ways that we didn't get. And I think that big C is also a big B, and that big B is belonging, right? That gave us a sense of purpose and it helped us belong. And I really think that the more we belong, the happier we can be. Because if we belong, now we've got real relationship. And if we belong, now we've got real purpose. And if we belong, I would argue, right, the word that I like to use is ikigai, right? The Japanese word ikigai, Ikigai, ikigai.
Ikigai. Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
And that is a big word, all about purpose and passion and what's most important at our core.
Yes.
That's what our ikigai is. I think that's the belonging.
I couldn't agree with you more. Over the years, I've started talking about that in terms of I'll call it the woolly mammoth effect. That if you think back to Neolithic cultures and early days when groups of people beyond just family units were banding together for survival, this woolly mammoth moves into the neighborhood. What do we do about this thing? It's an existential threat or a huge opportunity to feed the tribe for another season. And it is that thing that gives them purpose to survive and thrive and maybe even build a sense of identity around. Like, hey, we're the people that, you remember that woolly mammoth we took care of? Yeah, absolutely. So now today, we're not indiscriminately killing woolly mammoths, but I mean, there aren't anymore. But I mean, we're trying to build that big C, and that's all about having something big that pulls us together. And so the closer you can come to the mark of getting that big C or the big B belonging that you're talking about, I fully believe that's the direction to go. So I think we've been dancing a little bit around this topic of building groups and building consensus and that happiness or get that sense of self or well-being is very connected to that. Can we talk a little bit about this happy AF? I know you talk about it in your blog. It comes out a little bit. I kind of teased at the beginning in a very ham-fisted way. It's not what you think it is. Briefly, what is happy AF? What is the idea behind this?
Sure. Well, first, it can be the way that you hinted at, right? It can be that because for some people that is happy AF, but for me, the A stands for authenticity. It's happiness in my way, which might not be happiness in your way, Todd. And that's perfectly okay, right? But we have to be authentic in the way that we experience happiness. What makes you happy might make me sad and vice versa. And that's totally cool. And then the F is about fulfillment, right? Yeah. It's about fulfillment. And how do we find that fulfillment? So if we can authentically embrace something and then fulfill it, right? What fills my bucket? What fills my heart? What fills my soul? And yeah, my name is Phil, so I get the joke, right? That's really important. So if we can do those things, we can cross those Ghostbuster streams. Think of how strong we can be.
I react to this on a couple of different levels. On a personal front, I think about sort of how I've evolved my public persona, I guess, for lack of a better term, that, sort of the things that I do. It used to be, I would think, early in my career, I was a little bit guarded about the things that I, loved to nerd out about. And I I think I soon realized that actually didn't help me. It made me feel a little bit too constrained, with who I was. I make no bones about it. I'm a huge comic book nerd. I'm got a little Batman on my desk. I've got, I fly my freak flag high, for, things that I do around Dungeons and Dragons and online games. But I think that's something that gives us uniqueness, in what we do. If you think about back to the old children's show, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, Fred Rogers would say, there's nobody who's quite like you. There's nobody, who is, anywhere near what you are as a person. And so, embracing those things about ourselves, recognizing the differences in others, and being okay with that. I mean, I love that message. I love that you're a champion of that as well.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, I would say the more we share, actually, they become not differences, but connectors, right? So for instance, even if you don't love Batman, right? Batman is in the DC universe. If you love Marvel in the MCU, now we've got something in common, right? Now we've got something in common, even though it's not exactly the same, but we have to go first and share it. That's the thing, right? In order to connect, someone has to go first, and then someone has to go second. Those are the two most important people in a community. The person who goes first and says, I've got my hand up and it's me. And then the person that attaches to them and says, yep, me too. So I think we need to remember that, and then let everybody else connect in the way that they do, because the strength is in the differences. To your point, the strength is in the differences, but we have to share them in ways that connect, not to drive us apart.
Yeah. And that means a willingness to build those bridges between people. And I think it's one of the reasons, I'll often spout off and say, I work in communities. I draw a distinction between communities and social media, because social media is sort of like the big open party that never ends. It's a big open space. It is possible to form ties of community in those spaces, but that's like being in a big conference hall. How do I have a community there? Like, there's a lot of distractions around me. There's a lot of noise. It's always happening around me. But having spaces online where we can come together meaningfully, a little bit more intimately, is important to doing that. And then being, believing in the benevolence of other people in that space, to come together, so that when I say, I'm interested in, in this topic of like, I'm a big plant enthusiast. I like growing plants. And you say, wow, you know what? I'm a gardener. I really like, I like growing tomatoes. Actually, that's, oh, you know what? I didn't know that. I've had trouble growing tomatoes. Like, suddenly that's the beginning of the conversation. And it's that willingness to feed off of and have that imagination to connect with somebody else in these spaces. And I feel afraid a little bit about sort of where we are today in this poly-crisis world that we've got. I'm doing a little bit of a preview of who my next guest is going to be in 2 weeks. She's going to be talking about this a little bit. But that sense of guardedness where suddenly we're finding ourselves in groups where we're ready to just trigger on other people instead of and feed on their pain rather than feed on the joy of connecting with somebody else and somebody with maybe a little bit different ideas, whether politically, religiously, or professionally, in that space. And so, and I know this is something you've thought about a little bit too. You do. You, before the show, you mentioned, hey, maybe we should talk about Freudenfreud instead of Schadenfreude. Schadenfreude, like feeding on the fear and loathing of others, right?
Yeah, for sure.
What is Freudenfreud? Because I think that's a unique take on things.
Yeah. So Freudenfreud, if we think Freud is about joy, right? And on is in. So it's joy in joy of other people's joy. So for instance, Todd, we don't have to be exactly alike for me to celebrate your joy. I can just take joy in the fact that you have joy in it. For instance, I do not live in Two Rivers. But I tell you what, when you showed me that picture before in the green room about your beautiful walk on the beach, I can take joy in that. So the joy of joy is super, super big. There it is, right? That's the beautiful picture. Now, here's the thing. Some people will be jealous and say, man, how come Todd gets such a great view? Some people, some people like me will be like, oh, Todd, that's awesome, man. I'm so happy for you. And some people will just not even care. I would tell you the people that are jealous are not your people. The people that don't care are not your people, but the people that celebrate with you, they're not the people that are like you. I want to be clear here. They're the people that celebrate with you. Those are your people. And I think if we recognize that's another community factor of being excited, right? Think about, chambers of commerce where they have ribbon cuttings. We're coming together to applaud a new business opening because we recognize that your new business opening means that you're going to bring more foot traffic and more car traffic and more internet traffic to our community. Well, that's something to celebrate, doggone it. Congratulations, right? It's not about, oh, look, Todd, my pie is only 4 inches big. And that's all the pie we have, as opposed to let's flip that over and say, Todd, we have unlimited pie as long as we get enough people to bring ingredients in to make more pie. That's the whole idea behind NSA, right? Behind the National Speaker Association. Cavett Robert created this association 50 years ago last year. So in the year I was born in 1973, Cavett Robert came up with this idea of expanding the pie, making the pie bigger. Well, why don't we do that in communities more? Why don't we experience the joy of joy, the Freudenfreud of everybody? Because I tell you what, it's so much more fun when everybody's winning than when it's just me that's winning.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So what was coming to mind as you're talking about that is something that I think, has been facing a lot of community professionals right now. There've been a lot of layoffs in our space. Hundreds of community managers, just like hundreds of recruiters, a lot of people in the tech space have been laid off. It's been a mess to see organizations just jettisoning talented people. They're going to be sorry for it. Mark my words, they're going to be sorry that they lost those folks because they're going to have to recruit them back and hire them back at a bigger price point, I'm sure. But I would say, I was thinking as you were talking about that of abundance versus scarcity mindset. That's really what this is about, and it's that belief that I'm driven nuts by people who talk about like there's not enough of that pie that's there. There's so much to do. There's so many opportunities that are out there, and I feel like so often we're our own roadblocks, just in the mindset that we have when we look at those things. And it's one of the things I shared with you. I'm part of a group that's started up a consultants organization called the Community Consultants Collective. That I think a central tenet of that organization is that there is a lot for us. It's not that we don't want to prevent more community consultants from coming into our space. In fact, we say more. We want more because there's going to be so much need for this. And you know what? I was in recruiting for a long time. When full timers get jettisoned out of jobs, that's when consulting picks up. You get more part time or independent consultants, to do that work. That's the world we're living in right now. It's very cyclical the way that it is. And so it's just recognizing where that abundance lies and giving yourself permission to believe that it's going to get to be a better place at some point. So sorry, banging the drum there, but man, I totally relate to what you're talking about. Hey, I wanted to note we got some people who are on the stream. Quick shout out to Christopher Paul Elliott. Great to see you. He just put a quick post up here. I'll share it on the screen here. Super Bowl is Sunday. Show the joy of fans of the winning team.
Love that.
Yes, absolutely. That's a great point. So Phil, there's a number of things on your Substack that you write about on a regular basis, and I encourage everybody to go out there and take a look at it. We talked about a couple of things before the stream started here. One of them is I was particularly struck by a blog that you wrote about the joy of nobody watching. right? Or the freedom of having nobody watching. Can you maybe talk about that a little bit? Because I think that's something that's a psychological blocker, I think, for a lot of community professionals, and even, as a blocker for a lot of communities moving forward. Like, people won't participate in an online community because they're afraid of other people seeing them and seeing what they're doing. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. So first, the spotlight effect is really what we're talking about here. And the spotlight effect is, we think that everybody's watching us, that the spotlight's on us. Well, reality, let's flip that over. The spotlight's really on me. I shine my own spotlight on me, and Todd shines his on him, and you shine yours on you. Well, if that's true, then nobody is really watching us. They're watching themselves. So I think about the first time that I wrote my newsletter. Now, Todd, I've been online since March 4, 03, 04, 05. So March 4th of 2005, I wrote my first blog post. Absolutely zero people read it. I started my newsletter the next week. I had 3 subscriptions, 2 of my emails and my mom's email. And my mom did not open the email for 9 months, Todd. So my mom never even read my stuff.
Yeah.
Right? My mom never even read my stuff. So nobody, literally nobody, was watching me. Now, the freedom of that means that I can screw up, because I didn't screw up. I just tried, and maybe that didn't work. And then I can try again, and maybe that didn't work. And maybe I can try again. And maybe eventually, maybe, Todd, maybe you picked it up and you saw it. Now, the only way that you'd have found it, though, is if I'd have told you about it. So now, as we're building our community, as we're building our audience, as we're building people that maybe are going to listen to us, well, guess what? I get to be intentional about that. I get to say, you know what? I trust Todd, and I can share this with him, because even if he is watching, I have a freedom in knowing that Todd has my heart in his hand, and he's not going to crush it. So over time, right, it does get bigger. But heck, the first 100 people in your community are almost always hand selected. They're almost always people that you said that you vet personally. They're people that you know. They're people that you want to be in your community.
Friends and family. Right.
Yeah, right?
Yeah,
so
totally.
doggone it. Don't be afraid of that. Embrace the suck there that comes with 0 people watching you, and just go, go, go.
Amen to that. Yeah, I think back to some of my earliest stuff, and I even remember, like, my first professional blog was it was on Blogger that I wrote around recruiting, and I would write about anything that I wanted to. I didn't have a content strategy in mind. I was just sort of like, whatever struck me that day was, what I would write about, and I wrote maybe 2 or 3 times a week, on the thing, and enjoyed it. And I was shocked when I started to get responses from people, because, I think I entered into it just like you're describing. It was sort of like, hey man, I'm just going to put some ideas or thoughts out there, because this is kind of a cool thing to play with. And I'm a big fan of telling people that are trying to do career transitioning to put themselves into low stakes situations where they can experiment with themselves and try to do things. Try new tools, put yourself into new situations, join new groups where nobody knows anything about you, and you can offer some ideas, or you can just, like, that. Being able to be in a play space seems to be so incredibly important to, I think, our professional development. And we have this sense that, oh no, I shouldn't play because I got to be professional, with what I'm doing. But anybody that's got such a carefully staged, managed self out there is going to come off looking fake, in what they do. I don't care. Like, I put myself out here on these live streams. It's not because I love looking at my face on this stuff. It's because it's a little terrifying, to do that. But I think ultimately it's great, because it makes me, relatable. And I put myself out here, warts and all, and stumble over my words all the time. But I enjoy meeting new people, and I wanted to bring that sense of adventure and discovery to other people by doing this stream. And got about 2 years of these under my belt, and I'm happy as AF that I get a chance to do this kind of stuff, and we've got the technology to have a platform and do that these days. So right there with you, man. Right there.
Yeah, and Substack, right? If folks are listening, you want a low stakes place to go to Substack. I've got a friend of mine she's like, well, I want to try this new thing and I want to write about this, but I don't know anybody's going to listen. I'm like, good, write about it. Just write and use Substack. I'll tell you that in my last book, right, I got 10 free tools in $0 consultancy, and I made it. Substack is one of them because it's a blog. It sends out the newsletter. You can host your podcast. Heck, you can even make a little bit of money on your Substack if you want to, because Substack has a paid subscription feature. I'm not telling you you're going to get rich. Heck, today, though, I got a payment for $4.05. Woohoo, right?
There you go.
Yep, I bought my coffee for the day. But I share that because here's the thing. Whether you've got one subscriber that pays you $4.05 or you've got 100,000 subscribers that all pay you $0, it makes no difference. You can still create, and it's low stakes. What happens? Nothing or something. Who cares? Just give it a try.
Absolutely love that. Absolutely love that. I again, kind of looking back at your Substack, there's just a number of really great posts there. I love to just direct people to the 50 things I learned by 50. I was smiling and laughing as I read through that. I thought that was phenomenal. It was a great read. Another one that I thought was really great that I think is terrific for any business professionals out there, but I'm thinking of some of the community pros that are out there, watching. The Fantastic Five, Your Crew for Success and Fun. I thought that was a really great blog because I'll often talk to people about saying like, hey, you need to have a brain trust for yourself. But I like the way that you framed it with the Fantastic Five, because you had let's see, there's the encourager, your hype person, the mentor, your life's Yoda, the dreamer, your imagination buddy, the builder, the make it happen maestro, and the systems thinker, your strategy guru. I love that, you're sort of like assembling the Avengers, around, around your life, and whether it's for your business or for, just personal coaches, having that group of people that you can lean on and get their ideas and feedback from. I really love that, man. What was the inspiration behind that particular piece?
So, I read a lot of Jim Rohn I've in the past, and I've read a lot, right? Hey, in 5 years, we're going to be the sum of the 5 people we know and the things that we learn. And I of course, I totally agree with that. But I'm also one of those guys who likes to take a different twist on things. So I said, you know what? There's got to be 5 reasons why you'd have 5 people around you. So what I did is I thought about, so who do I want around me? First, I want a hype person, right? I want someone who believes in me, someone who's going to say, yeah, Phil, you go do that, right? I believe in you, man. So that was the first thing. And then someone who's smarter than me, right? A mentor. Now, this, again, sometimes this is virtual. I don't have to have people in person. In fact, right now, none of my Fantastic Five lives anywhere near me. Okay? Anywhere near me. Because I just moved to Ohio about 6 months ago. So we got Yoda, then we got a dreamer, right? That's important to have a dreamer. It's always important to have somebody who's bigger dreamer than me. Now, what if, why not, all that goodness, right? That's important. With that, you got to have somebody who's going to say, dude, do the freaking work, right? Do the freaking work. And that's our kind of our make it happen maestro. And then last but not least, we need someone who's going to be strategic with us, who's going to say, yeah, man, that's great. Now, what are you going to do with that? How does that fit into everything else that you do? So, yeah, so that's kind of where it came up with, Todd. And it took some time to come up with it. I mean, it wasn't like it happened automatically, but I thought about it and I thought long and hard about like, what the heck would I want that to be? What would I want that to do? How would I want people to feel about this post? Because I don't want people to feel like this is not approachable. That's the other thing, right? There's so much smartness out there that sometimes you feel dumb for not knowing it. I want to make it fun so people could say, I can do that. Because you can, right? You can. That's the whole thing. You can. You just have to choose it. It's up to you. Like, choose yourself. You're at the center of your Fantastic Five. So if you're at the center, who are 5 people that you could surround yourself with to make yourself even stronger? That's where it kind of came up with, Todd.
Well, I think it's it's a phenomenal framework to work with. And I found myself as I was reading through that, saying, "Oh yeah, I know. Yeah, I think I know who my cheerleader is. I think I know who my strategic guy. I think I know who my blue sky thinker is, my strategist." And it was inspiring to kind of just think about that and realize. I think what I realized coming out of it, there was some of my five are mixes of these.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
And that's okay. That's okay that they are. And realizing like, oh, you know what? I think I maybe need to shore up a little bit. I need a better chess master, with some of the stuff that I do, or because maybe I'm a little too egotistical about my own sense of, being able to be a good strategist, but I need somebody that's outside who can look in and tell me, how I seem to be fitting in the big picture. Or, wow, I really need I don't need a hype person so much as I need, somebody who is that make it happen person who's saying like, now, how are you really going to do that? How are you going to do that? I think in the past, sometimes I found people like that a little irritating. And so like, maybe I've stepped away from that. I think it's a great framework because it forces you to confront some issues about the kinds of feedback and encouragement that you encourage in your life. And so thanks for writing that. I think that it was a great piece.
For sure. Yeah, my pleasure.
Yeah. Some of the other stuff here that I liked, you had another piece here that I would encourage people to take a look at. It's called "Start Your Transformation Journey with Stanford's Expert Advice," and I think this was a Stanford scholar, behavior change tips for 2024. This was neat because it was the five pieces of advice were: think like a designer, build habits to last, embrace friendly competition, maintain momentum with good enough, and focus on nutrition wisdom. And being a community builder, I said, these are actually good goals for encouraging change in your community, whatever community you happen to be running. Even that number 5 one, which is about focus on nutrition wisdom, I twisted that and said, well, that's about trying to raise the quality of the content in your community. Fewer empty calories, fewer memes, more meat. Right? Give me
There you go.
a little bit more food for thought that's going to up the level of the conversations and increase people's feelings of value about what goes into that space. So anyways, long story short, there's a lot of inspiration in the work that you're doing, man. I truly appreciate it. And tell me a little bit about the kind of work that you're doing now. I'd love to hear more about the consulting or the coaching work that you're doing.
Sure.
What is exciting to you at the moment?
Well, the happiness thing that I'm doing right now has probably got my most attention. So I love working with organizations to increase their productivity, to make happy people, right? Happier employees all the time. That is the most fun that I get to have. In the last 2 years, I've been writing about it. So that's probably the most fun I get to have. I'm also, I'm a bit of a sales nerd. So you nerd out about Batman, I nerd out about sales. If you look behind me, you see probably more sales books than you. Well, maybe not, but I've got almost every book in my office. I've at least thumbed through. I've probably read it. Everybody that comes on my podcast, I read their book. It's really important to me to read their book, just as a matter of respect, so that I can have a good conversation. So I'm stoked about that. That's actually pivoting in the next couple months to the Happy AF show. Instead of the sales leadership show. Yeah, it's going to be focused on that, on the happiness, because I think everybody needs more of that. So, because I had 400 episodes of the sales leadership show where I talked a lot about sales, talked a lot about culture, talked a lot about leadership. So now I'm going to talk about happiness, and the show will start. Every show will start with happiness is, and then whatever happiness is to the guest. So they'll share that, and we'll bounce off the conversation from there. I just had Dr. Romy Mushtaq on to talk about about her brain book, which is super good. So I'm stoked about stuff like that. And then as people, some people need help growing their business with sales, growing their business with marketing. I've been doing that. That's what I started doing. It's still somewhat about building community, but it's really about, I like to work with the solo business, the smallish business, that everybody has a role in sales. So helping with that as well, that could mean enabling the entire organization to do a better job of creating content. It could be just, everybody recognizing that they have a role to play. So it depends. But that's the happiness work, though, Todd, I'll tell you, that's the happiest stuff, the most fun stuff that I get to do. And so I publish Mondays and Fridays, and then the podcast usually publishes Tuesdays. And then a couple times you'll see coming up, I've got 3 hours with Neil Ford, who's one of the best storytellers I've ever listened to. He's fantastic. He's got storytelling tips, and he tells stories, and he's just awesome. I've got a couple hours with him. I've got a couple hours of sales coaching, folks that I've got that are coming on that came on the show. I've got a couple hours of somebody's talking about Pat Lencioni's latest book that is about finding your genius. So yeah, I'm stoked about that, man, because I love to help people grow, whether that's in happiness, whether that's in business, or whether that's personally. So that's what I'm excited about.
You're terrific at it. And so so many areas I'd love to delve into a little bit further. I know we're running a little short on time here, but that whole idea of cultural change, I think is something at the heart of a lot of organizations right now. Especially, I alluded earlier to some of the downsizings in the tech space, things that are happening. When you're the one left behind working in an organization, it's hard to be happy. How do you, when you've had to go into an organization and try to engineer a little bit of a turnaround in morale and attitude, within an organization, what kind of things do you do to help them recognize things that they can be happy about in what they do?
Yeah. Well, the first thing is to just take an inventory of the things that they're genuinely grateful for. Now, this is hard because when things suck, people don't want to think about the good things. Challenging them, let's write this down, and flipping that over, go ahead, write down the stuff that you're not grateful for, the stuff you wish could change, the stuff you think sucks. Well, if you write them both down and you start with the happiness and then you come back to the happiness, now your brain says, yeah, okay, there's some stuff that sucks, but I've got something potentially I can build off. So naturally, the synapses in our brain start connecting things in different ways. And if we can start there, then we can start building, right? But you have to build. It's almost like, Todd, do you play with Legos at all?
I have, yeah. I'm not a fanatic, but I definitely love them.
No, right? I'm not either. I'm not either. But I think about Legos, right? And I know when I was growing up, you had to build every layer by itself. It was really hard. Well, now they got smarter and they have these flat pieces that you can build on top of.
Yeah, right.
Right. So take those flat pieces. That's the stuff in common. That's the stuff that's good, and build off of that. That's the difference now, is now we know that if people think about the stuff that's good, now we've got a foundation. But if we don't, we just go, you know what? Things aren't that bad. Bullshit. They are that bad.
Right.
Like they are that bad, but they're not that bad. And what I mean is they're bad. If you're 3 people doing 12 people's work, that sucks. Full stop. And now how do we get out of that suck? In the military, we talk about embracing the suck, right? In the military, we talk about embracing the suck. And I do some work with the special forces now, which is super fun work, by the way. And we talk about embracing the suck. So right now, in that 3-person team that is supposed to do 12 persons full of work, that sucks. Okay? It sucks. Let's sit there. It sucks. And now what? Now what? You going to stay in the suck? No. It says embrace the suck. So embrace it. Okay. It sucks. So what? Let's move forward, right? But embrace it first. Bring it close to you. See the suck. Like admit it. Admit the suck. And then move past it with some goodness. Because eventually you're going to get through that suck. You're 100% at getting through the suck, whatever it is. Now, sometimes that means, guess what, friends? You got to move on. But a lot of times it means you just got to do something differently for a little while until things get better, or until you make them better. So take the time, right? That's what I help people do, is to take that time to be grateful, just a little bit, and then we can talk about it. And now, oh, wow, Todd's grateful for that. I hadn't considered that. And Phil's grateful for that. And Kalisa, she's thankful for this. And this person's thankful for this. And this person's thankful for this. And I hadn't considered that before. I will tell you, Todd, that I write a lot of days about the 3 things that I'm grateful for. That's my gratitude practice. 3 things. It starts with today I am grateful for. And whatever those things or those people are. Today I am grateful for. And when I think about those things, A, they make me happier because I recognize that I have at least 3 things going right in my life. And secondly, because I like to share, I put them on Facebook. What happens is somebody else sees them, and then I get a private message that says, "Hey Phil, I read what you wrote today, and I recognize that I've got a lot more to be grateful for than I thought. And just you sharing those 3 things, it helped me pause and be grateful for something too. I don't necessarily have 3 things, but I've got 1 thing I can build off of. Now, I didn't do that on purpose. I didn't share them because I want you to be grateful too. I shared them because it makes me feel better. But a lot of times that energy helps other people get energy too. So you'd be surprised, right? As a leader, and I believe everybody is a little L leader, not necessarily a capital L leader, right? A little L leader, you lead yourself first. Well, if you're a leader, you got to go first. So go first, even if it's just to yourself. I've got a notebook right here. Hold on, let me pull up my notebook here that I am writing in all the stuff that I'm doing, right? I'm taking notes, putting them in here so that I can refer back to this later because I'm not going to remember it.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah.
So there you go.
That's exactly it. Keeping that day journal. And I'm a big fan of, in as much as we live these digital lives, being able to write things down is such a cool thing. I'm struck by, well, first of all, great wisdom. Thank you for sharing that. That it's so close to that idea of Stoic philosophy, of recognizing the things that you can't really do anything about at the moment, and then moving. It's that acknowledgement and that recognition of, well, this could suck worse. It doesn't. What can I do right now? What is the thing that I can move forward with? What is the thing I can still do that I can feel some kind of joy or some kind of happiness about? Because we're the ones that affect how we feel about things and how we react to stuff, right? Mm-hmm. Exactly. So that's a really wonderful message, Phil. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you for that. That's really terrific. I can't believe we're kind of the end of our time here together. Anything you want to promote or talk about, with what you're working on right now, or we should give another plug for your blog and your live streams that you do, because I think that I've tuned in on a couple of them and they're always great. You always bring in some really interesting people.
Thank you. Yeah. So a couple things. Yeah. Go to happyafnow.com. That's my blog. I do post I post almost every live stream that I do gets posted as just audio up there. So I encourage you to do that. And if you're watching us on LinkedIn, I encourage you to find me. You spell Gerbyshak, look at the screen there, Gerbyshak. You'll find me there. Or if you're on YouTube, you can go to youtube.com/@happyafshow. I've got a few shows up there. I'll have more. And I tell bad dad jokes there. So go ahead and check it out.
Wonderful. That's really great. And I want to thank Kalisa, who just popped into the chat here. Phil's Happy AF Mix on Spotify for a mood boost. You get a chance to get out there, have a dance party, take a break from your day. Yeah, that's right. We'll kind of do a little bit of a I should put up the music dance. That is terrific. So I encourage everybody to, please sign up for Phil's YouTube, the Happy AF Show. We got the link up there in the chat as well. And of course, I'm sure you welcome any and all inquiries that come in through.
Absolutely. Yeah. Reach out. Don't be shy.
Yeah. So we're kind of at the end of our time here. Thank you for coming back on the show, Phil. It was so wonderful to see you again. I always have great joy when we have a chance to get together. as for those of you that join me, if you're here in the live show, thank you for coming. And thank you for jumping in with comments during the show. If you are catching this on the replay, add your comments. Would love to hear from you. I try to respond to everybody that replies out on either YouTube or on LinkedIn here. And if you are liking this content, we got a lot more in the back catalog. So I encourage you to like or follow the Clocktower Advisors channel on YouTube as well. In the meantime, we've got a fantastic guest coming up in 2 weeks that's the 23rd of February, same bat time, same bat channel. Get little Batman up here. And that is going to be another dear friend. Actually, she was the first guest I ever had on the live stream. Her name is Sahana Chattopadhyay. She is, I want to call her like a philosopher pilgrim. She is an amazing individual who thinks and writes a lot about building communities organically. And she's going to be talking to me about how in our current polycrisis world, we have the ability to really start building more meaningful, connected community spaces together. She talks about it as a pluriversality of worlds. So I can't wait to dig into this topic. I hope you join me for that and put on your thinking cap for that conversation. It's going to be a lot of fun. In the meantime, I hope that you are good to yourself. Spend time for yourself with yourself and your loved ones this weekend, because if you're not, you can't be good to others. So please take the time to relax, be good, keep building wonderful communities, and I will see you back here in 2 weeks. Many thanks to Kalisa, my engineer. Please roll the credits, and we're out of here. See you in 2.